Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Dean Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
Welcome to today's show. I'm your head ninja, Dean Akers, and I welcome you every week to the Sales and Leadership Ninja Show. Each week I bring one of my rants to stimulate your thinking in either sales or leadership realms. Today's show is going to be more about leadership, and as most of you know that listen in on the show each week, it usually something happens to me the previous week, and this week was just a glaring example that I've seen time and time again. And today's show is, are you the smartest person in the room? I meet with CEOs all the time, and I have been for years and years. And they all comment, or not they all, but a lot of them I meet with when they're looking for advice on how to grow their companies, and their companies are kind of stagnated. They're not particularly large companies, and they blame the economy, market, competition, all the stuff that you traditionally hear blames. And they comment how they wish their people were smarter and better thinkers and their business would grow and blah, blah, blah. And then they share the one thing that I always come up with, or I always have been able to come up with the solution, is what they say. You know, I'm the one that always has to figure it out. I mean, I just can't find these good people. And so, you know, when they're the ones that are the smartest people in the room, it creates a unique situation. My question to them is, how's that working for you? They always say that if their employees' fault or hard to find good people or blah, 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 blah. If this at all sounds like you, I'd recommend you take a look in the mirror. Your team is much smarter than you give them credit for. You probably have created cripples because you've criticized or offered advice. And people go, well, they come in and they say, well, boss, what do you think about this? And you go, yeah, that looks great, but / negates everything. I'd probably change the color of that a hair. The minute you do that, as a leader, you just took ownership. And unless that color was a deal killer or something that would really impact your business, you're better off you're better off for sure letting them have the ownership of that color. So when they walk in and they ask for your suggestions and stuff, and you give them that small criticism or suggestion, you're basically creating a cripple. And you've just become the smartest person in the room. The minute you weigh in on something, it now moves out of empowered ideas to what the boss wants. And that's a very limiting process. I can't begin to tell you how many companies that have had this kind of anemic growth. And when I go in and I listen in meetings and stuff, I clearly see the smartest person in the room phenomena going on. Almost any ideas like, we tried that years ago, it didn't work, or this or that. And the impacts of it aren't just not monumental given the chance to develop your people and have them grow and discover some of these things. Maybe you know. Now, that doesn't mean you just go crazy and let them run, rampant and make bad decisions. But if it's a decision that's not going to truly impact or cripple your company, let them make some mistakes. A great example, smartest person in the room, is, I don't know if any of y'all have ever done those lockup rooms where they put people in a room and there's like 5 locks that you have to break the code on and get the key, and then you ultimately get out and you have a certain amount of time or you fail. Well, I've found doing that over the years with people, and it's a great team building exercise. You can take, like, you, the smartest person, put you in a lock room, then boom, you go. You'll never get out probably. Take 5 of your weakest links, if you will, put them in the same lockout room with the same tips and ideas that come out of the whole discovery process, and they'll generally get out, which is very, very enlightening process for a leader. Because what you find is group thinking or people sharing ideas, they bring different discussions and different dimensions. And quite frankly, sometimes their lesser of educated thinking is a clearer thought than the thinking that comes from the highly educated. Doesn't mean you want to surround yourself and have dumb people, but don't underestimate the power of the people and you not being the smartest people in the world. if you want to really get out of this tailspin, start taking their suggestions and their ideas. And when you take them, have them execute on them with total ownership. Unless you think this idea is going to be a major impact on your company negatively, let them run with it. Let them run with it. I'm reminded of a company I was CEO of years ago, and the founders had the company for 6 years, and it was kind of a mediocre, never grew at all. And I'd come in, and every decision the group was making, they would bring it to one of the two guys, and they would always have a comment. Now, just change it a little. Do this a little. The minute they did that, they were creating their own sets of cripples, and they never really recognized it. They would, by that subtle change, they suddenly had somebody pass ownership over to them. So if it failed or anything, they owned it because it was their idea for the little thing. Or if it won, it was their idea, and they just totally took the brain trust out of the equation. So by being the smartest person in the world, they had just basically crippled themselves for 5 or 6 years. When we joined together and we started empowering the team and we kind of got out of their way, the company took off, and in the next 6 years grew to the largest player in its industry in the United States and had a huge exit. But it was all about becoming the unsmartest person in the room and empowering your people. So you want to make sure that this sense of empowerment you understand, because it's tried and true. The mega successful entrepreneurs and business folks know it. It's the controlling leaders that the smartest person in the room, and they're the ones that tend to limit the growth because they can only grow to their capacity. So become a person that is not the smartest person in the room, engages your team, and get them really rocking. So look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I being that person? If so, this week I want you to consciously work with your team and allow them to take risk and make decisions. Even if you have to record yourself and go back and listen to yourself and see if you interrupted them, if you threw out an idea or whatever, let them do it. It'll be hard to do. It'll hard to do. And a week, if you can get it through the first week, then move to 2 weeks. 2 weeks will turn into a month will turn into a year, and you'll wake up with a mega successful company. I promise you. When you are not the smartest person in the room and you empower your people, you're going to find phenomenal results. And the downsides are so small, they're hardly worth worrying about. So I want to challenge you to, quote, not be the smartest person in the room, engage your team, really engage, and shut up and listen and let them make some mistakes. So thanks for tuning in every week, and remember to share if this helps you. My book, Self-Talk, Think Like a Child, is available on Amazon. I appreciate when people order it there, and it's also on Barnes & Noble. And if you ever have a question, just email me at help@adjunctceo.com, and I'll be glad to help you. So your assignment as a leader this week is don't be the smartest person in the room.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanakers.com. Also, visit us at www.deanakers.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.